Most teleprompters have one big problem. You need something to put behind the glass. Usually that's a phone, tablet or laptop, which means another device is required for setup, another screen to deal with and another thing taking up space. Well, with the NEEWER 2-in-1 teleprompter, this tries to solve this problem by including a monitor with the teleprompter, making it really a teleprompter and a display. So you can use it for more than just a teleprompter, whether that's just as an extra display or using it for Zoom meetings or live stream comments. It does have a few different uses. So NEEWER have sent me this teleprompter for review, but as always, they have no say in the content of the video. And if you enjoy camera, lens and accessory videos like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help me out a lot knowing what type of videos you guys like. So the teleprompter costs $249. So the question really is whether it makes recording easier and whether it's worth paying that much for an extra monitor. Let's find out. So inside what is quite a substantial box, you get documentation, a microfiber cloth, the teleprompter, the camera mounting hardware, the monitor, and cables and accessories needed to connect it to your computer or mobile device. So with other teleprompters, you'd usually put your phone or tablet behind the glass, but instead with this one, you use the supplied display. This makes setup a little differently from what you would normally expect with a teleprompter. So I'm not going to spend too long on the setup, I'll just show you a couple of key things. The teleprompter and mounting plate connect together very easily, and the monitor just slots in front. This process is actually very, very simple. This is where you would normally put your phone or tablet. At the rear of the teleprompter, it gives you a couple of different options for mounting so that you can mount either a camera or a smartphone, so you don't have to use this with a camera. It includes a blackout bag to stop reflections onto the camera's lens. So unlike most of the teleprompters that I've used, it mounts to a tripod rather than the front of the camera, making it feel a little bit more secure. Then your camera mounts to an adjustable platform which you can move 10 centimeters horizontally and 3 centimeters vertically, giving you some flexibility positioning the lens behind the teleprompter. The base uses quick release plates, which is very simple and easy to use and a nice little feature. The teleprompter mounts to a tripod rather than hanging off the front of your camera. Once everything is in position, the monitor does need to be connected to a host device to work, whether that is a computer or a mobile device. You can connect it to a computer using the supplied USB-C cable. The HDMI connection requires a driver on your computer to be installed so that it can ultimately act as another device via USB. You can also mirror a compatible phone or tablet. I've only been using it with a PC as generally that is how I record my videos. So you will need to install that driver, but that only takes a few minutes. Of course, you can just use this monitor once the driver is installed just as a monitor. You don't have to use it with the teleprompter. When it comes to it being a teleprompter, the most important part, of course, is whether it is easy to read from. And the answer to that, thankfully, is yes, as you do have a large 11-inch viewing area. In use, the text is clear and easy to read, and the glass does a good job of keeping the reflected image visible, and crucially, the text isn't then visible on your camera. It has a reading distance of up to 2.5 meters. I haven't tested quite that far away because I simply don't have that much space, but I can believe it because you can change the text size. For a typical desk-based setup like this, though, the reading experience is absolutely fine and probably around a meter away. You can control things like text size and scrolling speed through the NEEWER teleprompter software, and you can mirror your display depending on how you are using it. It is very easy to change the orientation of what is on the display just with the controls on the side of the monitor. The app will need to be installed on your device, but once it is easy enough to control. You can change things like opacity, scroll speed, font size, and a load of other settings. It is really easy to control in the app. The nice part of this is that you can also change these whilst recording. There is also support for syncing scripts between devices using either the cloud or Wi-Fi, or you can just type it in or copy and paste it into the app. However, there is one thing that is missing that is far more important. There, for some reason, is no remote control included with the X11. Even though the app, you can see, does support one, there isn't one included. And for over $200, this does feel like a big miss. If you're reading a script and you need to do things like pause the script, slow it down, rewind, or start again, you can't do it from the teleprompter itself. You need to reach to the device running the script and press the correct button. I mean, unless you get your voiceovers perfect every time, first time, then hey, it won't be a problem. But for me, I do often have to re-record sections, and not being able to control that with a remote control does seem like a very big miss. For a product that's supposed to be making teleprompting more convenient, that is, it's a really frustrating omission. It's particularly noticeable if you're recording yourself alone, without a team, if you're standing or sitting in front of the camera, trying to maintain eye contact. Then suddenly you have to reach over to your computer or phone to control the script. It isn't quite as seamless as I was hoping. A simple remote control would be a big difference here. It would only need a few controls. But now let's move on to the monitor, which I do think is the biggest plus point of this teleprompter setup. By connecting it to a computer, which it is simple enough to do, you can basically use it as an additional display for your computer. The screen itself isn't particularly high resolution. It's 1024 by 768 pixels. But for these uses, it's not necessarily a big issue, as the display is a very small 9 inches. You wouldn't be using this display for gaming on. Well, you can if you want, but it's not going to look good. So what is good about the NEEWER X11? You don't need to find a way of balancing a tablet or phone behind a teleprompter. You don't need to dedicate another device to a script like a phone to display it. It all comes in the one package. I also think the teleprompter being tripod mounted is a much, much better design than the ones that hang off the front of lenses. It's nice to know that you don't have that weight straining on your camera or lens. It has very decent adjustable mounting platform, which gives you plenty of flexibility depending on whatever lens or camera body you are using. And the ability to use the monitor for other things than just the teleprompter is the biggest plus point to the X11. Using it as an additional screen for live streaming or presenting to camera is definitely a very useful thing to have, and can be used for a lot more than just displaying a script. But of course, it is really hard to overlook there not being a remote control included. For me, this is so frustrating, as you'll need to shell out even more money to get a compatible remote control to turn it into a more functional teleprompter. And seeing as it is being sold really as a 2-in-1 teleprompter and monitor, it not being that great at one of the features is frustrating. And at $249, of course, you are paying for a teleprompter and a monitor. That's what this X11 is. But if you only want a teleprompter, there are so many simpler options that cost a lot less. So really, this X11 is really for people who are going to use it for more than just the teleprompter function, and will get much more usage as having a small extra monitor. So all in all, is the NEEWER 2-in-1 teleprompter worth $249? As a teleprompter, it does what you expect, and you're really paying the money for the extra monitor for your setup, compared to cheap teleprompters where you need an extra device. It's clear and easy to read the text, the app works well, and the second screen functionality is also useful if you regularly record, live stream, or present to camera. But the X11 really has missed an important part of the teleprompter experience by leaving out a remote control. And at the not insignificant price of $249, it makes it much harder to recommend. Being able to control the script without reaching for another device really would make this a much more of a slam dunk of a product. But overall, as a pure teleprompter, it is a no from me at that price of $249. But if you know you're going to get good value out of its monitor for much more than just a teleprompter, it may well be worth considering for you.